Good morning. A really warm welcome to our honourable and distinguished guests, shareholders, our colleagues from Zambia, and really would like to just ride on established protocols. Thank you. Prospect Resources is primarily a story about people, and this is our 8th year, barring COVID, being involved at Africa Down Under. What we really love to talk about is our people, our partnerships. We talk about the various collaborative efforts that we make, and importantly, we try to look at how we're going to bring sustained shareholder value. So we're a private business, we're a public business, we're an Australian business, we're a listed business. So what we really want to focus on here, and my attention today is to get you to understand how Prospect is leading the way. And this is an electrification or energy transition opportunity, and it's certainly one that Prospect Resources has put a lot of effort into. So as I go into the Prospect story, and I will be mindful of time, I just also want to draw your attention to a little bit about what our journey was. There was a little reference earlier about lithium in Zimbabwe, and now we're talking about copper in Zambia. And there's some strong consistency, and it is something that I believe is momentum that we've been building for very nearly a decade. We really focus on our people, we focus on building expertise, we focus a lot on the collaborative opportunity between Australia and Zambia, because many of our skills are African, but they have Australian experience. And as you think about some of the industrial strengths of Western Australia, in particular copper, is something that I'm going to come back to. Whilst we love to tell our story, and we're going to dive a little deeper now, and it might get a little bit technical, but whilst we love to tell our story, we've been very strongly supported by several brokers, analyst coverage. So we have it through Canaccord Genuity, we have it through Foster Stockbroking, and we have it through Argonaut. These are independent opportunities to look at what the analysts see as the opportunity that Prospect is focusing on. And it's also an opportunity to understand, through their experience, how a business like ours is going to develop shareholder value. So, can I just dive you back a little bit? The last time we presented at Africa Down Under, well, pre-COVID certainly, we were talking about lithium in Zimbabwe. Lithium obviously had an extremely interesting phase in the 1920-21 phase, and Prospect put itself in a very strong position with a major hard rock discovery. It was called the Arcadia Lithium Project. It was in Zimbabwe. It was at that point the 7th largest global hard rock lithium deposit. So it was a mining project or a lithium project, energy transition ready. And what this really needed, like all good projects, is a good team. And the board and myself and my executive put together what we believe is one of the most nimble, world-class teams with Australian experience focusing in Africa. Ultimately, a number of feasibility assumptions, work, engineering, studies, drilling, all the work that was conducted at Arcadia Lithium Mine resulted ultimately in a quite significant transaction. It's good to see some shareholders here. I welcome you back, but that was a 96% capital return from a junior miner. I cannot tell you how many times people tell me how unusual that is. So we put ourselves on the map, we kept the team together, we kept some of the proceeds of that sale. We looked at our core capabilities, we looked naturally ahead into the energy transition, supply-demand dynamic, and we say that we naturally pivoted to copper, and if you're going to focus on copper, you need to be in Zambia. 2023, Our team scouted Zambia extensively. We were able to welcome a broadening executive capability in the country, and it resulted in us acquiring the Mombeji Copper Project. As you can see, perhaps from the map, the Mombeji Copper Project's up in the northwestern province, and this is also called the domal copper province. So I'll talk a little bit about that shortly. Now, clearly, we're a company that has an eye for opportunity. We look at what our skills are, and we match our opportunity with our skills. What really drew our attention to Zambia in particular, and for those who don't know, it's in the center of Southern Africa, is their policy attitude towards investors. Zambia has over a century of copper production, and they've had an opportunity in the last 5 years, or dating back 5 years, to look very carefully at means and policy enablers to bring in the investment to take their copper production from around 800,000 tons to 3 million tons by 2031. So this is an industrial powerhouse. This is an opportunity to retool the country, and the most clear act of purpose from the government of Zambia was to recognize the importance of foreign direct investment. So they've positioned themselves particularly well. They've looked at their policies. They've created some really simple entry protocols, and Zambia, as a consequence, is probably very nearly 50% on its way to producing its 3 million ton target. So when we as a company stand back and we look at our team, we look at the opportunities, it's always important for us to marry the political will. And in Zambia, we have that in abundance. So Zambia has always had a reputation for its copper belt and its world-class status and its ability to produce year after year significant contributions to the global consumption of copper. But the emergence to the west of the copper belt of what is probably becoming the new copper belt is what I've zoned you into here. So in the last 20 years, so in my career, we've managed to see Kansanshi mine come into production with First Quantum Minerals. To the center, you can see Lumwana. There might be some of you who can remember Equinox Minerals. They brought that into production. And of course, to the west, we've got another First Quantum Minerals operation, which is Sentinel. These three mines currently contribute over 3/4 of the copper in Zambia. And so as you look forward to how that production base is going to go, perhaps through a fourfold increase, this is an area where we believe is the most additive opportunity. So this is where Prospect Resources took its team, its focus. We scoured extensively. We looked at lots of opportunities that did and didn't suit us. And the Mombeji Copper Project was a clear standout. And the acquisition of that project happened in May 2024. Prospect immediately put its balance sheet to work. The team came out into formation, as we call it, and the team drilled out nearly 10,000 meters last year post-acquisition. The important thing that the team wanted to do, which is very consistent with what we delivered at Arcadia, was execution of the project. We have to take risk out of this project. How do we do that? We have to put money in. We have to take risk to establish the opportunity, and importantly, we need to take it up the certainty curve. So we were able to define a maiden resource earlier this year as a result of all the work that preceded. 107 million tons at 0.5%, which, as you would have observed in the earlier slide, if you had enough time, was that 0.5% in this part of Zambia is contributing 3/4 of the copper that Zambia exports. So this is a very typical grade. It's a very viable grade. We like it. It's open pitable. And yeah, so we were able to declare a resource with 500,000 tons contained. At $10,000 a ton, you can do the maths. And it certainly put us on the map. We hadn't been on the map in Zambia. We had established a reputation in Zimbabwe, but this put us on the map, and probably one of the most rapidly advancing projects in Zambia. At the same time that we were doing our work, we passed a lot of our data, which is very technical, geochemistry, geophysics. We passed it on to an independent geologist who gave us an exploration target. The importance of this is that on our tenement, we were working in around 3% of the surface area of our tenement. So we needed to understand what is the full potential, how do we understand what the priorities and ranks of those potentials are. And the important thing that we got through that conviction was that this is potentially a billion ton resource at 0.5%, which starts to put it in the same league of Sentinel, Lumwana, and Kansanshi. So that's our job, folks. Today, it's my job to draw your attention to what we're going to do. We're going to try and develop the Mombeji Copper Project with an objective of bringing together a world-class resource. How have we done that? This year, we welcomed First Quantum Minerals to our share registry. They invested into 15% of the company. Of course, they're to the west of us. They've got an enormous operation, which we know is hungry, it's consuming. So we fit into an important part of their growth strategy, which is how do you make Sentinel as equally important to Lumwana, a sustainable business in a depletive mining role. So we focused this year, post-transaction with First Quantum Minerals, on deploying capital at an exceptional rate. We were able to draw a program together for 18,000 meters, so more or less twice what we did last year. And we were very focused on growth extensions. Where are we going to get additional resource extension? We know that this tenement has the potential to have 1 billion tons, but how are we going to bring that into the balance sheet? So we have some results there. We're about 90% through the program. We're about 20% reported. So the next 4 to 6 weeks is going to be extremely powerful as we get those results out. There are some results here. They're fascinating, 60-odd meters at 53% and others. So we really have taken a resource growth perspective to this, but that has only been one dimension of what we've done. We've had 2 dimensions. The second has been resource tenement-wide. We've run geophysics over the tenement, which is an airborne EM survey. We've got some specialists here who've been fascinated and asking lots of questions about that. This is a survey, as my previous presenters have shown, allows you to look at a much higher scale across a much bigger area. We've also managed to do some geophysics, soil sampling, and that data set, in conjunction with our partnership with First Quantum, who strategically enable us with their experience in the country, but they're 20-odd years in this particular territory. So we're starting to use words like AI learning, when's the data going to be processed, etc. So we know that there's a tremendous experience in how Sentinel was discovered. They know what the major steps in exploration are to building these Tier 1 resources. So we are mostly through that program. So that's very exciting. So that's our second dimension. One is drilling out, which we've been leading, and the second is more of a tenement-wide. And we've managed to move quite quickly. I'll draw your attention to West Mombeji, which is to the north. This is probably one of the most significant beacons of results that we focused on. It had tremendous geochemistry results. We did some induced polarization over it. Thank you. We put a drill rig on it, which is air core, and finally, we are currently drilling it. So the diamond drilling results, they'll probably come out shortly, and it'll be pretty important to put those alongside. In the background, metallurgy. Can these ores be processed by our neighbors? The answer is yes. And work streams for the rest of the year, I think we're well on target. We've got a fantastic program ahead. We love to say what we're going to do and then do what we said. And so we try to make this as predictive as possible despite the uncertainties. So ladies and gentlemen, prospects are leading the way. We're doing it in Zambia. We're doing it in copper. We understand that copper is going to be very tightly supplied in the next 15 years, 5 to 15 years. We have infrastructure, we have partners, we have people, and we have the resource. Thank you very much.